We are here today because Facebook's business model is rotten at its core. And the proof of that is what it's doing to our kids. Facebook knows that it's harming kids.
But it's clear now that
And I came forward now because now is the most critical time to act. When we see something like an oil spill, that oil spill doesn't make it harder for society to regulate oil companies. But right now, the failures of Facebook are making it harder for us to regulate Facebook.
Jeff Bezos, the former CEO, went to space, came back, said thank you for paying for it. That was a slap in the face to everybody. So what this company represents is putting profits above people.
I decided to coordinate this Dublin gathering as one of the many Google sites that are walking out today in solidarity with anybody who has experienced any form of sexual harassment or misconduct in our workplace.
I think there is a view inside the company that safety is a cost center. It's not a growth center, which I think is very short term in thinking. Because Facebook's own research has shown that when people have worse integrity experiences on the site, they are less likely to retain. I think regulation could actually be good for Facebook's long-term success because it would force Facebook back into a place where it was more pleasant to be on Facebook, and that could be good for the long-term growth of the company.
Facebook, the world's largest social media company, is grappling with a series of scathing reports. Frances Haugen, the company's former data scientist turned whistleblower, told lawmakers in the United Kingdom that the company stokes online hate and extremism. Her testimony echoed much of what she has told the US Senate earlier in October. The former employee cited internal research documents she secretly copied before leaving her job in Facebook's Civic Integrity Unit.
Saw Facebook get taken off the internet.
Apart from inciting political violence and fueling misinformation, she also accused the company of failing to protect children from harmful content and lacking any incentive to fix the problems.
And I think there's a real thing that people are exposed to data and then they say, look at all the good we're doing. Like, yes, that's true, but like, we didn't invent hate, we didn't invent ethnic violence, and that's not the question. The question is, what is Facebook doing to amplify or expand hate? What is it doing to amplify or expand ethnic violence?
You're right, I mean, Facebook didn't invent hate, but do you think it's making hate worse?
Unquestionably, it's making hate worse.
For example, look at this. Bangladesh has seen a series of targeted attacks on religious sites, businesses and houses of those belonging to the Hindu community since October 13th. The week-long spate of violence left 6 people dead. The clashes erupted following rumors and fake news spread through Facebook. The viral photo showed a copy of the Quran placed at the knee of a Hindu deity during the Durga Puja festival. Experts suspect the Facebook post that many Muslims found offensive was deliberately aimed at inciting a mob. Around 450 people have been arrested for spreading rumors on social media. The world's biggest social network was used to fan violence. But what did Facebook do to stop it? Nothing. This is not the first time Facebook has chosen to look the other way.
India is a very special and important country for us. Millions of people here use our products every day to stay in touch with friends and family, whether it's a WhatsApp message or a Facebook post or a photo on Instagram. And millions of small businesses across the country use WhatsApp Business and Messenger to reach customers, manage orders, and grow their businesses.
This is how the CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, viewed India last December as his biggest market. Right now, there are over 340 million Facebook users in India alone. But even in Facebook's strongest foothold, the social media network has been accused of misusing its platform. Internal documents show that inflammatory content on Facebook was up 300% before the 2020 Delhi riots. This report states that Indian users are subject to a large amount of content that encourages conflict, hatred, and violence. Between February 23rd and February 26th, 2020, clashes had broken out between supporters of the Citizenship Amendment Act and those opposing it in northeast Delhi. At least 53 people were killed in the violence. Another country where Facebook was used to incite violence is Myanmar. In 2018, it was revealed that genocide incited against Rohingyas started on Facebook. Hate speech propagated by the Myanmar military personnel exploded on the social media platform at the start of the Rohingya crisis. Thousands of posts by nationalist anti-Rohingya supporters gained traction online. Even in Ethiopia, where a civil war is raging, Facebook knew it was being used to incite violence, but it did little to stop it from happening. The report claims armed groups in Ethiopia were using the platform to incite violence against ethnic minorities.
I think it is a grave danger to democracy and societies around the world to omit societal harm. To give a core part of why I came forward was I looked at the consequences of choices Facebook was making, and I looked at things like the Global South. And I believe situations like Ethiopia are just part of the opening chapters of a novel that is going to be horrific to read. Right? We have to care about societal harm, not just for the Global South, but our own societies.
Clearly, moderation efforts by Facebook are not working. The whistleblower documents also indicate that the company has failed to scale up staff or add local language resources to protect people in these places. Mark Zuckerberg cannot evade responsibility by claiming they have no power over the third-party information they display.
In March this year, the leaders of Facebook, Google and Twitter were grilled over the connection between online disinformation and the US Capitol riot.
On January 6th, a pro-Trump mob stormed the Capitol after the rally, with a number of them battling with police and invading congressional buildings.
The three executives appeared before two Senate subcommittees and the Energy and Commerce Committee. For the first time, Twitter's chief executive Jack Dorsey publicly admitted that his microblogging site was used and has played a role in the events that left 5 people dead.
So how have these companies been allowed to get away with this? Platforms like Facebook, YouTube and Twitter are banking on artificial intelligence technology to help stop the spread of hateful speech on their networks. But the algorithms used by these companies are not working.
Tech giants are finally talking about keeping children safe online. Google is all set to introduce a new policy that will allow anyone under the age of 18 or their parent or guardian to request removal of their images from Google image search results. YouTube will be improving what it calls overly commercial videos from their children video app YouTube Kids. That means content that encourages kids to spend money will be erased. Facebook and Instagram too have announced that they would stop ad targeting minors.
Apple is also looking into a software update that would help find, flag and report potentially illicit content, such as child abuse imagery stored on people's phones. Are you wondering why these tech behemoths are suddenly so concerned about child safety? That's because they are now being cornered. For years they have chosen profit over children, lured them, trapped them, and failed to give them a safe environment.
You cannot trust big tech with your kids. Parents of America cannot trust these apps with their children. We need stronger rules to protect children online, real transparency, real accountability. I want a market where the competition is to protect children, not to exploit them.
It seems like every day that I hear stories about kids and teens who are suffering after interacting with TikTok, YouTube, and Snapchat. Kids as young as 9 have died doing viral challenges on TikTok. And we've seen teen girls lured into inappropriate sexual relationships with predators on Snapchat. Your parents, how can you allow this? How can you allow this?
On the 26th of October, policy representatives from YouTube, Snap and TikTok faced the US Congress and talked about how they protect kids online. All 3 social media sites are popular with teens and young adults. They committed to sharing internal research on how their products affect kids. The congressional hearing happened in the wake of Frances Hogg's explosive revelations about Instagram.
Facebook's own reports say it is not just that Instagram is dangerous for teenagers, it is actually more dangerous than other forms of social media. Because
Why?
TikTok is about doing fun activities with your friends, it's about performance. Snapchat is about faces and like augmented reality. Reddit is at least vaguely about ideas. But Instagram is about social comparison and about bodies, right? It is about like people's lifestyles, and that's what ends up being worse for kids.
The subcommittee is now widening its focus to examine other tech platforms with millions or billions of users that also compete for young people's attention and loyalty. According to a new study from the Pew Research Center, 24% of teenagers are online almost constantly. Nearly 75% of teens have access to a smartphone. That means they can access the internet, watch TV and videos, and download interactive applications or apps. It is reported that 76% of teens use at least one social media site. More than 70% of teens visit multiple social media sites, such as Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram. The excessive use of social media has been found to have dramatic negative effects on teenagers. Facebook's internal research found that Instagram, which it acquired in 2012 for $1 billion, makes eating disorders and thoughts of suicide worse in teenage girls. According to internal studies retrieved by Hagen, Facebook found that 13.5% of teen girls say Instagram makes thoughts of suicide worse, and 17% of teen girls say Instagram makes eating disorders worse. Facebook downplayed its Instagram research, but the disclosures have already forced it to pause work on an Instagram Kids app, which was targeted at those younger than 13. Other companies too are now promising better regulations. But is it enough?
We take into account the unique sensitivities of young people. We intentionally make it harder for strangers to find minors by not allowing public profiles for users under 18. We have long deployed age-gating tools to prevent minors from viewing age-regulated content and ads. We make no effort and have no plans to market to young children. Individuals under the age of 13 are not permitted to create Snapchat accounts, and if we find them, we remove them.
Our child safety-specific policies, which I describe in greater detail in my submitted testimony, prohibit content that exploits or endangers minors on YouTube. Using a combination of machine learning and human reviewers across the globe, we commit significant time and resources to removing this harmful content as quickly as possible. Between April and June of this year, we removed nearly 1.8 million videos for violations of our child safety policies, of which about 85% were removed before they had 10 views. We are constantly working to improve our safeguards.
Former US Vice President Al Gore has launched a new fund management firm backed by Microsoft. The new fund, Just Climate, is short on details, but it was launched just days before COP26, the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, Scotland. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, who recently wrote a book called How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, is attending the event. Major companies including Microsoft, Apple and Google are backing initiatives that will cut their environmental impact. They are making an effort to be seen as environmentally conscious and responsible.
Listen up, people. Let me be real for a second. You've got a huge opportunity right now. As you rebuild your economies and bounce back from this pandemic, this is humanity's big chance. So here's my wild idea. Don't choose extinction. Save your species before it's too late. It's time for you humans to stop making excuses and start making changes.
Last year, Microsoft announced it will be carbon negative by 2030. But climate activists are accusing it of hypocrisy. Greenpeace, an independent global campaigning network, says Microsoft is ignoring the leading cause of climate change, fossil fuels. Microsoft has contracts to help fossil fuel companies drill for more oil and gas. In fact, tech giants have been competing with each other to strike lucrative partnerships with the fossil fuel industry, supplying them not just with remote data storage but also with artificial intelligence tools. The oil and gas industry is spending roughly $20 billion each year on cloud services, which explains why big tech's pro-climate rhetoric is not matched by policy action. More recently, a study released in Nature Communications, a scientific journal, found companies such as SAP, IBM and Google are underreporting their greenhouse gas emissions. The research found inconsistencies in the way companies declare their carbon footprint. Focusing on 56 companies in the tech industry, researchers found that on average, companies fail to disclose about half of their emissions. Not very promising, is it? And then there's the Clean Energy Pledge by Apple. The iPhone maker says 175 of its suppliers have now committed to using clean energy, which will help to bring more than 9 gigawatts of clean energy onto power grids. But let's not forget, Apple is locking horns with the European Union over the bloc's push for a standard charger that works for all smartphones. The rules are intended to cut down on electronic waste by allowing people to reuse existing chargers and cables when they buy new electronics. However, Apple is the only major phone maker that uses its own proprietary Lightning connector rather than the USB-C connector adopted by most of its competitors, and it continues to resist this move. Last year, it stopped shipping charging bricks or earbuds in the box with new iPhones, claiming this will help curb e-waste. However, it has been criticized for using the environment as an excuse to lower shipping costs and increase profit margins. Instances like these are why tech giants are accused of greenwashing, which is designed to make people believe that companies are doing more than they actually are. Many tech companies are also facing the heat for cultivating a toxic work environment. Not too long ago, Amazon surpassed Walmart for the title of the world's largest retailer outside China. But employees of the e-commerce empire are less than happy. On the 25th of October, workers at an Amazon warehouse in New York City's Staten Island borough filed a petition to form a union to safeguard their rights. The move represents the second time that US staffers have aimed to unionize this year, following a failed effort at an Alabama facility in April. Workers are demanding higher wages, job security, safer conditions, better medical leave, and more paid time off.
We're treated like numbers, like robots. So the takt time, time off task, literally just being controlled at a rate that is for profit and doesn't care about us as humans at all. Doesn't allow us to go to the bathroom.
In 2018, British journalist James Bloodworth, who went undercover to briefly work at an Amazon warehouse in the UK, made shocking disclosures. He claimed workers relieved themselves in bottles because they lived in fear of being disciplined over idle time. While Jeff Bezos' company denied these reports initially, it later apologized for disputing this claim. Reports of poor working conditions and even suicides have plagued the e-commerce giant's health and safety track record. So much so, the National Council on Occupational Safety and Health included Amazon in its Dirty Dozen list of the most dangerous employers in the US for a couple of years in a row. The 1st of November 2018, more than 20,000 Google employees and contractors staged a series of walkouts across the world. The reason? They were protesting against the company's handling of claims of sexual harassment, gender inequality, and systemic racism.
Hey, hey, ho, ho! Cover-ups have got to go!
The walkout came a week after it emerged. Google gave a $90 million severance package to its top executive Andy Rubin, but concealed details of sexual misconduct allegations against him. Today, technology companies are among the most powerful forces in the world. In 2018, Apple became the world's first trillion-dollar company. 2 years later, it became the first US company to be valued at $2 trillion on the stock market. The 5 American big tech companies, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google's parent company Alphabet and Facebook, are now worth more than $5 trillion. These companies are amassing wealth on a scale that's not been seen before. They have a type of power and influence that cannot be measured easily, and society must figure out new ways to govern them and hold them accountable.